Hello, my name is Dr. Anthony James, and I wanted to share a video after a colleague asked me my approach to working with graduate students. Certainly not to be egotistical, but this colleague asked me to provide some perspectives out after a few years of monitoring my working with grad students and the effect that apparently these relationships have had on the students. So let's get started. All right, so here I have a few thoughts. I usually like to make videos brief and to the point, so hopefully if you have more questions or thoughts, I did include my email on the first slide, and you can certainly reach out to me, and I'll be more than happy to share some additional perspectives. Let me also say there is probably quite a bit of literature on this, and that's not the point of this short video. I'm simply sharing the perspectives that I've been presented with and how I have implemented those in my several years working in higher ed. And hopefully you will be convinced with some of the outcomes that I will talk about at the end. So multiple perspectives. I generally break it into two categories. One is student versus faculty centered. And so student centered would be an approach where you really think about the needs and the desires of the student and how you can, as the mentor, can meet the needs and desires of the mentee. Faculty-centered is an approach where you, as the mentor, really focus on your own work and what you need from the student, and then you figure out how that student can assist you in the things that you would like to get done. Now, let me make sure I say I have a personal preference for which one works, but I think both can be successful. I've certainly witnessed individuals engage in both of these approaches, and I've witnessed individuals be successful as mentors as well as mentees. So please do not feel like I'm saying one is better than the other. I think it's a matter of choice, and certainly situation or context matters. Let me take an example of gaining research experience to hopefully bring to life these different types of approaches. So one would be, let's say the student is interested in a particular program of research. And so the mentor, whether he or she has any interest in that research, in a student-centered approach would do all he or she can do to make sure that student learns the different methods, theorizing, so forth and so on, literature about whatever that program of research is. In a faculty-centered approach, the student comes with the faculty still with the desire to learn more about research, but in this approach, the faculty is probably established or has a area or program of research that they are working on, and they include the student in that program of research, and through that process of helping the faculty members program of research, the student or mentee learns the skills that they need in order to move forward in their own independent research. And so this is just one example of how either of these approaches can work. Again, one focuses on the research of the and desires of the students. One focuses on research and desires of the faculty member. Okay, let me move down to my experiences and approach. So my major professor was Dr. Mark Fine at the University of Missouri. He is now at UNC Greensboro. And I recall our first meeting when I was assigned to him as an advisor after my initial advisor, Dr. Michael Lambert, who was ironically also at the UNC system, but he is in Chapel Hill, if I remember correctly. He left University of Missouri, and so I was assigned Dr. Fine, and I recall in our meeting that Dr. Fine explained this dichotomy to me and made it clear that it was all about what I wanted, that he was student centered, and that he wanted to make sure I gained the skills that I needed in order to move forward and be successful. And I appreciated that, and certainly that was effective for me, and it worked. I was able to finish my thesis and my PhD under his guidance, and was able to publish a few things. And again, I was appreciative of that. As I stepped into the role of a faculty member, I was faced with trying to figure out what my approach would be in working with grad students of my own. And I honestly, based on actually my research on adolescent development, I actually took a process-oriented approach in saying, I want to make this mutually beneficial. So typically what I do when I first meet with a student that's interested in working with me or is assigned to work with me as a graduate assistant or wants to work with me on research, I always say, hey, let's make this mutually beneficial, so that I'm just honest up front. I let them know that, time is scarce, energy is scarce, it's a resource, right? And so I only have so much of it, as well as the student. So how do we each get out of this relationship what we need and desire without feeling alienated, without anyone feeling exploited or used? And so I usually ask the student what their interest is, what they would like to accomplish in a relationship, and then I talk about some of my research projects, usually focusing more on the things that I feel have a connection with the student, and so or the interest of the student, excuse me. And I think that that's where the bridge happens between my interest as well as the student's interest. And through this process, the student gains the skills that they need in order to be successful in whatever outcomes they desire. But I also benefit in terms of being able to advance my own research and my own career in a way that is not alienating or exploitive to the student. And so we are in the field of academia, and so we like to talk about evidence. And does it work? Well, my last three graduate assistants, I don't have their approval, so I will not mention their names. They each published something with me. None of these grad students had a desire to go into academia. In fact, they are practitioners, but they had the experience of learning how to do research and being able to take those skills with them into the workforce and in their practice. And I hope that over the course of their careers, they can lean on those skills they learned by working with me, but they certainly can include in their resume or CV, this line of having published something. And also, I'm yet to have, and hopefully never do, have a graduate student that asked to be transferred or not work with me. So I'm going to take that little bit of anecdotal advice or anecdotal evidence as they've enjoyed working with me, that they appreciated my seeing them as human and not wanting to exploit them. And so that's my approach, is this mutually beneficial really roadmap and process for them getting what they need out of our relationship, but also me being able to benefit in terms of the time and effort I put in helping them. I think that's fair. I think it's worthwhile, and ultimately it's worked for me. Again, it is a process. It's something that is constantly evolving, developing. I usually have to check a few times about are they getting what they need? Do they understand? Because research, quite frankly, is an enterprise that is difficult to learn, like many other enterprises, right? So that, again, has worked for me. I've appreciated the opportunities, and more than anything, I hope that this informs your own work with grad students and that you and your future grad students can be successful in both getting what you need and desire out of the relationship. Again, my name is Dr. Anthony James. I appreciate your taking the time to listen to me, and hit me up if you have any questions, and we can possibly figure out a solution or answer to whatever those questions or problems are. You have a wonderful day, and again, thanks again for taking the time to listen to me.